Jam's Circuit Masters Roundtable. Okay, we're super excited to bring you all these awesome circuit masters. They're going to be sharing amazing pro tips about their process, and of course, you guys are free to be able to pick their brains. So this is being live streamed on YouTube. For those of you in the audience, you guys please point at me, point at us, message us any questions, and in the chat and on YouTube, please also ask any questions there. We'll be keeping a lookout. Ryu's helping us keep up with that. All right, without further ado, I'm gonna introduce myself. I am Pal, one of your hosts, and I have the pleasure of having a co-host. Okay, we got over here to my right, to your left. And Few Good Tacos is gonna be helping us out with moderating the panel. Few Good Tacos, please feel free to take it away, introducing the panel and yourself. Yes.
Awesome. Thanks, Pal. Yeah, so Pal's gonna be monitoring some of the stuff up here that we're gonna see up here. So I'm gonna get things started. So thanks everyone for joining us today. So this is going to be a whole just big discussion about specifically CV1 circuitry. But there was another one for CV2 a little earlier. And so I thought I would just start off by just asking everyone just their experience in Rec Room and how long they've been doing circuitry in Rec Room. So for myself, I've been in Rec Room since 2016, but I don't think circuits came out until what, 2017, 2018, something like that. I forget. Yeah. When did circuitry come out?
I think it came out early 2018.
Early 2018? Okay. So for however long circuitry has been around, I've been working in it, and I've been doing a lot of crazy stuff with it. But yeah, I'm curious how long each of you guys have been doing it. So I'm just going to let's go half circle here. Yeah. So Velp, how long have you been working with circuitry?
Yeah. Please share. Yeah, please share that. And also, feel free to introduce yourselves. Tell everybody your name.
Introduce yourself.
I'm sure a lot of people will recognize me. I've helped a lot of people with circuits.
Yeah.
I've been using it since, day one, and it took a while to figure out how to do storage, because there's no easy way to do it first day.
Yeah.
And and then one of the first things people were working on were toggles. And eventually it was discovered you can do it with one chip.
Yeah. What about you, Dragon? Introduce yourself and then also tell us how long you've been doing circuitry.
Hi, my name's Dragon Rat Tiger. I usually go by Dragon, but I've been messing around with circuits since around probably mid 2019. I mainly done circuits for other people's rooms. I usually work on other people's rooms, but I enjoy making game circuits and all that.
Nice.
I just don't have much to talk about. I'll have more to talk about later.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about.
Wonderful.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Jeff isn't with us just yet. I think he's having some technical difficulties. So let's go on to Ryu. Ryu?
Hey guys,
how long have you been here, Rec Room? How long have you been doing circuitry?
A little while. I think I started circuitry at the beginning of 2019 because I joined Rec Room late 2018. I didn't touch anything with Rec Room creation until later the next year. But for the most part, I've been mostly focused on just doing some really simple circuits and trying to make it very easy to understand for new creators and tycoon game circuitry. So lots of cool math equations, very simple stuff, but just trying to keep it simple.
Nice.
Hey folks, I'm Joker. I started playing Rec Room in August 2018, and that was also the first day I started using the Maker Pen and creating with circuits. Fun fact, back at that time, the wire tool was called the Connect tool, and it was renamed at some point shortly after that. So yeah, I started playing, I started using, building with circuits around that time. I've done, I think I would say my focus at that time and since has been innovating stuff. I try to build things that haven't been built before and find new ways to do things, to do old things.
Nice. Cool. So, Pal, what would you like to go next to? Do we want to go with question B next?
Yes. All right. So, thank you guys. Okay. All right, guys. So we have some questions from the community, and one of the first questions that we have coming up from them is, when did circuits first click for you? Okay, or did it take time to learn them? Like, how did the process for learning them? How was that for you?
Where would
I'd
you
love
like to start?
We can go around the table. All right, we can start with you, Taco.
Okay. Circuits didn't really start for me. Or they don't really click immediately. I have more of an artistic background, so I don't really think in terms of how circuits work. I've never been good at math or anything like that. But circuits started to click for me when someone explained the concept of circuits to me, which was like, circuits are kind of like controlling the flow of water by using dams. It's a very interesting concept, but the lines that connect circuits are the water, and then the circuit chips are the dams. So basically water flows into a dam and then it comes out a different side. And so that got me understanding circuitry the best. That was the thing that, like, oh, okay, so we're just passing this thing here and it comes out there. And so it's just routing water around. That's kind of how I how I figured out how I got it to work for me. Velp, what about you?
Well, I've been using circuits since they came out, so I learned as they came out, which is actually a much easier way to learn how to use something, which is why I always suggest people start to learn V2 if they're interested in circuitry at all. Because as things come out, it's easier to learn.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
When
100%.
I kind of, once I actually got the hang of the weird things that you have to do with circuits to be able to store and stuff like that, then it's just pure logic. It's not math. You don't have to worry much about math. It's just controlling the flow of numbers instead of manipulating the numbers directly. It's.
Do you have a programming background though?
No.
No, you don't. Okay.
No. A lot of people who are good with circuits have a programming background, but you don't need a programming background to be good with circuits. You just have to be able to think with logic.
Got it. Dragon, what about you?
Honestly, I had like a bit of a coding like knowledge back in like senior high school.
Okay.
But going into like circuits in Rec Room, it took me a while to like figure out like how am I supposed to get this to even work? Because I would look at these like names, these symbols on these circuits, and I was like, what? And so I spent probably like about a year just playing around with circuits until everything finally clicked in. It's like, oh, okay, that's how it works. It took me a while to figure this one out, but I eventually got, I eventually got the hang of circuits. I think I've got it, pretty well. I'm
Nice. So it took a lot of repetition, a lot of practicing to get to it. Yeah. Okay.
And an uncountable amount of like trial and error.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
hey.
hey.
Perfect timing.
We got a perfect drop in here. Yeah. Hey, Jeff.
All right. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hey,
No.
Hey, Jeff. Real quick, can you introduce yourself to us real quick? Can you tell us who you are and what you do and how long you've been using circuitry?
Yeah, okay. So I'm Jeff, and I've been using circuitry I started messing with circuitry as soon as it came out. I was super excited for a visual scripting inside of Rec Room. And since then, I have made various games. That's kind of what I found that I enjoy doing the most. So I have a bunch of games behind me, such as like Murder at Tudor Mansion, Core Wars. I helped a bit with Prop Hunt. And I've been having a lot of fun building games and having fun with people.
Nice.
Cool. So I think if I'm going to take the floor here with what kind of made circuitry click for me, there was definitely a defining moment when I first started. When I first took a look at circuits, I was like, what the heck is this? What are these symbols? This is weird. This is foreign. But then, I learned a little bit more about what that meant. I had some friends come in. They're like, oh, if you just like connect this wire to this one, then it does a thing. And I'm like, wait a sec. This is just like Microsoft Excel, and that's super bad. It's the worst comparison. But so my history and experiences, I have a bit of experience, building some spreadsheets for my professional work outside of like Rec Room stuff. So I've had some experience building some very basic, like really easy logic of and or if. Very, very easy stuff there. But as soon as I was like, oh, it's just like that, it's just visually displayed. It just clicked right then and there, and I was able to go from building nothing to building much more complex, just steps of nested functions with visual circuits. Um, there was some bugs I had to learn along the way, kind of learning the quirks of
Yeah.
what Rec Room has to offer with these Circuit V1s kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I delve into, and I created my first like little room of Office Tycoon, using that kind of logic with
Ooh.
kind of the
Yeah.
big circuitry stuff, and it kind of went from there. So that's when it clicked for me.
Nice. And what about you, Joker?
Cool. Yeah, circuits did not click for me. And I think, like, I personally believe circuits don't really click for anybody. I mean, so I know Ryu was talking about how, like, yeah, she made the comparison to spreadsheets, which is, I think, counts as a programming language. Maybe.
I think it counts as one too.
It's got enough in common with a programming language that makes sense. But I think if we're talking about programming in general, I think probably programming doesn't click for anybody, and that includes something like circuitry, for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's just like learning anything is going to take time, but also I think the word is vocabulary. Like learning circuits, you need to learn. You can't know how to do everything without knowing without being familiar. There's a familiarity with each chip and each little function, what it can do, what it should do, what it does do, and that just takes time to get into your memory. My early days with circuits was standing in the middle of Park with my overlay open, looking at the wiki, and sort of just piecing through what I wanted to be building, and just sort of skimming through the list, being like, does this sound like the thing that I might need to be using? Reading the little blurb, trying it out, wiring it to something, seeing what it did, and then learning what each thing did that way. And that took days and days and weeks. So there was no clicking, but yeah, I don't think there's clicking, but I think what I'm speaking to here is like, I'm answering the question is like, should people be intimidated trying to learn circuits? My answer is no. If you don't feel like it's clicking and you're intimidated because of that, then you're wrong. You shouldn't be intimidated for that reason. What you do need to have is a drive to solve a problem. Because like in my first days of working with circuits, I had something I wanted to build. I don't think I ever ended up building it, but like I had some ideas. I was like, I want to make this thing happen in Rec Room. And between that point in time and getting the thing done was reading that wiki and figuring out how a bunch of things worked. And that was the learning process. There was no clicking, and it's been like that ever since. With Circuits V2 as well.
I love that. I love that. Yes, projects like project-based. Projects are so helpful too. It just gives us that agency. It's so relevant. It's so direct. Like you're learning with a purpose. Like it really drives. I think that really helps us like, really focus. I love it. Jess, so the question is, in the early days, like Joker was saying, how was your approach to learning circuits? How did it click for you? What was your process to learn it?
I guess I kind of had a similar process to Joker, where I had a project idea in mind, and I was messing with the chips. I don't think the wiki had any or many circuit diagrams, so I didn't really use it. I mainly used the circuits channel in the Discord and asked questions for people who understood it more than I did.
Yes. Plus 1,000. Yep.
Yeah.
Same.
Discord
So. So
Someone give you the link right now.
So yeah, that was my process. It was just messing around, seeing how things worked. I think the dev Duffy had a room for some Circuits V2 some Circuits V1 examples, and I used that a little bit too. I was really confused. It did not click for me at all. I like struggled to get the concept of like ring stores, like that, like where's the variable? Why is this variable chip here that I can't set? I was really confused by that. It was it was a tough learning experience.
Yeah. That hits on something. I want to jump in and just say, like, yeah, that hits on a couple really important things. Number one is the Discord. You've got an entire community, whether it's teachers, tutorial videos, or whatever, but especially the Discord, because you can go in and you can say, here is exactly the problem that I'm having, and here's the gap in my knowledge, and somebody will jump in right there and say, oh, here's what you need to know, and link you to something or show you a picture. So that's cool. And the other thing is dissecting things that already exist. Like, there are rooms, I try to do this as often as I can with my rooms. I try to provide rooms where you can just go in and look at what I built. And maybe I don't explain it, but you can take out your maker pen and pull it apart and see, you know, where it breaks and watch the numbers move and the values change. And that, like, having that as a resource was, for me, a big help. I know Velp, at the time I was learning, Velp had a few rooms like that and still does, tutorial rooms where you can just look at a circuit that's built. Seb is another one. Seb had a few rooms out like that.
Nice.
Awesome. Speaking of, I want to know also, this is another question, a nice riff from A Few Good Tacos. What is your approach on what circuits are needed in a room when you begin a room? Is it like an organic process?
Yeah.
Or do you plan it out more methodically?
Yeah, more methodical, or is it more organic? Yeah, for me, I don't know. What do you categorize chaos as? Because that's just how it is for me. Like, it's just I usually start with the problem, and then I just try and figure out what's the solution for it. And it's just like, okay, well, I'll try and brute force it this way, and it's this thing here, and this connects this, and then this thing. Well, that's not going to work, so we'll route this around this thing. And by the time of it, I have it. Show that one picture that I have up, where it's just me with like my cross-eyed. Yeah, like go up one. Yeah, that one. So that one right there, that was just me. That was me just screwing around for about an hour, trying to solve a problem, and it's just so chaotic and just messy as all. Like it's so chaotic for me, and I never have like a very methodical way for it. I really approach it as like, I'm in the jungle and I have to survive, so I'm gonna grab sticks and make a little fort and I'm gonna hide in it, kind of a thing. It's that kind of mentality when I approach circuitry. It's very Minecrafty. It's very Redstone-y, you know. So like for me, it's definitely not a clean process. It's not methodical and thought out. And I'm gonna do this little piece here, and this will go. And now in the later days of working in circuitry, I've definitely gotten a lot more organized than this, but it still certainly starts out like this, and then eventually I like clean it up and I optimize and I distill it down to something that works really well. But a lot of my early days, everything was like this, like Taco Cove with my fireworks. Fireworks all look like this. They're just chaos. Like, people would be so surprised to see so much wiring and chaos for all the fireworks just spread across the whole horizon of that room. Yeah. How about you, Velp?
Okay, well, anytime you first start off with circuits, it's always just brute forcing, learning how things work. But as you get better, you can kind of realize what you need to get done first before you can do the more complicated stuff. Sometimes before you can have the more complicated thing work in your room, you need to have the simple basics before that can happen. Anytime you're doing something more complicated, you anytime you do something more complicated, it needs sometimes you need to just brute force and get something that works. Figure out why it's working that way, why wasn't working the way first couple attempts, and then you can condense it down to make it smaller and more efficient. Sometimes actually having a smaller circuit is far more reliable than having a more larger, more complex one.
Definitely. Yeah.
Like if you pull up the my boxers map, like the POW.
This one?
Nope.
No, I think it's
That's mine.
before this.
Oh, that's Dragon. Sorry guys. Here we go.
There you go, yeah.
Like the right there, that's the boxer gloves for my boxers map. you can tell there's a whole bunch of trigger zones there. Each of them are actually designed for something. You can see the object trigger zone is to detect the opponent's gloves, so that well, actually I think it's to detect the opponent's trigger zones, but it allows you to actually block so that when you go to punch somebody and their hands are in the way, it will block the damage. The skinny trigger zones are around all four sides is to detect how much the glove is actually impacting the person. And then the other trigger zones are to detect how many trigger zones enter the person during a single tick to detect velocity for damage. Then I've got two other pictures there, but the screen share looks like it turned off. I don't see anything there now. I've got two other pictures from there where I have two different sections, one for the actual logic of how everything works. Yeah. And can you scroll to the next picture?
Oh,
Yeah,
there you go.
right there, the front right there. That
Looks
is
like
the
chaos.
logic of, yeah. There's a lot of workarounds in that because when I first made the map,
man.
there were a lot of Rec Room bugs that I had to work around. Like one bug I ran into with this setup was some people get stuck in an infinite respawn loop. Just by adding a delay would fix that. Had someone else come in and seen fixed, they got stuck in a respawn loop. Turns out it was because they were from Australia and the ping mattered.
Oh yeah, ping. Those are even
Yeah.
things you don't even think.
Oh yeah, Australia.
Yeah, and then if you go to the next map, the next image. That is the actual damage system I'm using. There's 4 different lines there, one for each set of gloves. So you can actually see them just horizontally. Vertically is a different set of gloves. And all it is detecting how many trigger zones fire at once. And
Got
you
it.
can tell things are like semi-organized in that one. But if you go to the next one, which should be a Night of D&D, yeah,
Oof.
that looks like chaos. But everything
Yeah.
there is organized. This was before circuit boards, and this map actually doesn't work anymore because the trigger zone update broke it. Yeah,
That's one thing about building circuits is that you have to expect at some point your circuits are going to break, just from all
Yeah.
the rapid iteration over it.
This map, you can tell I have everything grouped in different sections of the different sections, and they're all hooked up in between each other. And this actually has like 5th edition or is it 3rd edition, like D&D mechanics. I have the initiative preset for each different role for the I think it's Ranger or Paladin, Rogue, and Wizard. And just the logic and the few make-pen shapes I needed for the logic took between 70 and 80% of the room.
Yeah, that takes up a lot of ink.
Yeah. Everything there is actually pretty well organized compared to some other maps that I've done, simply because I had to have them organized and grouped together. But even if I tried to make that with circuit boards, I'd hit the circuit board limit for inputs and outputs. So I couldn't really use circuit boards for most of this. Because you can tell they're really intertwined.
So for you, is it more organic or is it more methodical when you do your building, when you do your
It
circuitry?
really depends on exactly what you're trying to make. Sometimes things you just kind of grow and expand out because you build something simple and then you realize there's an edge case you have to worry about. Like, what if 2 people enter the trigger zone at the same time? What's going to happen? And then you have to sometimes make a little bit more to handle that. Sometimes you realize you're making it too complex and it's causing bugs and you have to break things down and work a different path. Sometimes you know exactly what you want to do and just step by step it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Dragon? I'm curious to hear. Is it more of an organic process? Is it really messy, or is it like very thought out and very like rigid in how you do it?
All right, so my circuits actually began like pretty messy. In fact, I
Yeah.
actually just sent you another picture that I forgot to.
I mean, this looks pretty clean to me. I'm looking at this one right here.
yeah.
This is looking, man, I wish my stuff looked like that. That would be
Hold on a
amazing.
second. That's where my circuits began, sort of. Like, I usually like try to put in like circuit boards solely for like ink.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
And hold on. So you can't see it in the stream. I don't know what it does,
It does.
and at this point, I'm too scared to look. Oh, dragon.
Mood.
That's how a lot of my
Wait.
circuits started out. I just built stuff. I hoped that, you know, it worked in the end. And then I just scrunched it all into like a circuit board for the ink.
So do you
But
always
I
start
did-
like building within a circuit board?
Not within circuit board, but I try to build like for starters. No, I don't want to take a picture. For starters, I try to think about what I'm even making in the first place. Like for example, that right there, that's just animations for like a robot, and that was before animation chips came out.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I wanted to like animate it waving or whatever using the rotator. So I just had like
Oh,
a
geez.
bunch of messy circuits in there. I just played with, you know, whatever worked, and I hoped that, you know, it worked in the end. So I just put it onto like this circuit board, just compressed it, just called it that. Gave it an accurate description. Because I think labels are something that's like
Yeah.
very like
Oh, man.
underused. Like
Well, labels are
I
so
wish there- I wish
needed,
there-
but we don't
yeah.
really have that in
Yes.
CV1.
yeah, and I think it's a little bit harder in CV2 as well. Even though we have like names for stuff now, it's just like
Yeah, well, there's a
It's
hope
kinda
that
hard to
maybe
label
we'll
stuff.
have that in CV2. We'll be able to like name
Yeah.
groups of
yeah,
circuits.
I want
or,
I
you
want
know,
to label
something.
stuff without taking up so much ink.
Yeah.
But
So it's almost sounding like everyone starts with good intentions of like starting out methodically, but it becomes organic in the sense that it kind of gets away from you and it expands and grows like a monster.
yeah. This is like
Yeah.
this is like a like universal like coding thing as well. Like if you don't have labels, if you don't have descriptions, comments, someone's gonna look at it and be like, "What? What does this
Yeah.
do? What?"
Can I interject
I
a
mean,
question for
even you're gonna
curiosity
get confused too. Hmm?
for everybody?
what's up?
Please,
raise your
please
hand,
do,
raise
please
your
do.
Hand, raise your hand if you do have some coding, programming background before coming into circuits.
A little bit.
Interesting.
Tiny
Okay.
bit.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
those most of us don't, and that
Yeah.
definitely includes me. Yeah.
Yeah, labels are just okay. Okay, moving on though. As I
like how-
continue to
I like how it became like journal entries, like express like dear journal. I don't know what. Like you don't deep.
yeah, but as I continued to build over time, I started to think more about like just the general like concepts, general like rules, and especially with games like Treasure Hoarder. If you want to move to the next image. Especially for games like Treasure Hoarder, where you have to like, you know, collect gold, and you have to hoard as much
Yeah.
gold as possible. I had to keep track of everyone's scores and the team scores as well. So it was really important that I figured out like the general rules. Like, okay, how does this game work? And when I figure out, okay, there's these two teams of 4, or at least, you know, whatever number there's going to be, and they're all going to like collect gold, and they can all take gold from other people too. And so I have to consider these rules and these conditions before I even start, you know, building it. And when I do that, I try to label again. I try to label as much as I can, even if I like don't touch the room anymore. Maybe I'll come back to it one day and I'll be like, maybe I want to change something.
Yeah.
Like I'll even have like my own variable inputs and outputs, just to know you know, where this goes and where that goes and what I can change as well. And in the next image, that's become really important as well.
So this is practically like in coding. We have functions in programming. So it's like you've put in functions here now.
Yeah.
So you're grouping
Fun-
like similar rules and processes into one chipboard, and then you're using that in different places.
Yeah. So I had like a ton of you know, gold pieces as well, and I didn't want to keep rebuilding the circuits, so I just built one, put it onto like a circuit board, and I just you know, duplicate the gold around and change the values a little bit, like the gold amount. It's hard to read, but that one says 10, and there are others that have like 20, and there goes Velt. Oh.
He'll be
And
back.
so I think the most important part is just, yeah. Sorry, what?
Oh, sorry. I was just mourning the loss of Velp.
Oh man.
Oh,
Sure,
looks
back
like
eventually.
a victim of
Gotta make
circuitry.
He'll
Take
be
a
back.
moment.
Yeah.
Just
A moment of silence for Velp.
Bell gets a single tear, and then we
Yeah.
move on.
Yay. Okay. I think
Cool.
I work pretty methodically
Oh, there he is.
and pretty technical too.
Yeah.
I try to think about what I'm even doing in the first place before I even like really start.
So you're starting to you're planning it out, trying to think it through and stuff.
I not only plan like the general rules. I plan like how I'm gonna build the circuits. Because again, the circuit boards they help you save ink, and when you build in the room
Yeah.
where you don't have a whole lot to work with, especially at this time where circuits took way more than it does
Yeah.
now. I had to really make sure this all worked out. I'd be able to compress as much as I could.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah. Sorry,
Shall
that
we
was
move
way
over
too
to?
long.
Awesome.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no, that's
Let's
great.
move over to Jeff.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
Good
Jeff.
job.
took the spotlight.
Good job, Dragon. No, I love we got to go in the mind of Dragon, and also how you journal, a new way to journaling. Yes. Jeff, share with us. Organic, methodical. What's your approach?
It's definitely organic. I have a question. Does anyone here like draw out or map out their circuits before they do them?
I do.
You do?
I use Jolly Dog's tool that he made. So there's a tool for CV1 stuff. One of the members made. His name is Jolly Dog. He made this Rec Room circuit simulator, and you can find it's pinned into the CV1.
Yeah, Seb contributed to that. It's also,
Seb
I
contributed
believe
that too,
that's
yeah.
linked on the sidebar Reddit as well. Yeah, it's a pretty
Yeah.
handy tool for circuits.
Yeah,
if you
but
want.
you can simulate all your circuits in 2D on like a web page, and then you can like save that out and you can pull it up later in VR when you actually get into VR and start building it. Save
still
me
a few
so
things
many
missing from
hours
it,
of trying to
though.
build that stuff. There's some things missing it, but it gets like a general approach to things. Like you can really simulate a lot of like processes and stuff that you're trying to do. So yeah, I'll definitely like try and map out a bunch of my circuitry before even getting into VR by using that circuitry simulator.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I didn't think about the simulator. I was thinking about like getting a piece of paper or something and just writing down like what you
yeah.
need to do. But that's
I
interesting.
have whiteboarded before. I've like done flowcharts on a whiteboard, but that's all in VR.
yeah.
And just kind of like this needs to go here. This will be an event that'll happen this way and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen people do things like that, and I've never been successful with it. I've tried before, but it's easiest for me to just go in and just start tinkering, I guess, with all the
Yeah.
circuits to figure out how I can accomplish something. It's easier for me when I'm like sitting in front of a problem. Okay, I have to solve this problem now. How do I do it? So I definitely don't plan out my circuits in any way.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems to be
Okay.
consensus so far, as most people are not really, with the exception maybe of Dragon here. I think a lot of us are just kind of like, I don't know, just start trying to do it.
Yeah.
I wing some of my circuits as well. I just hope it works sometimes.
Yeah.
So I'll break up the pace a little bit here
What about
and
you,
go
Rhea?
into my type of flow as far as how I build some of my circuitry. I tend to tackle a lot more. I tend to tackle circuitry in a sense of concepts. So I figure out like I want to create something like I'm just going to use my tycoon throughout this panel. I want to create a tycoon of some sort that requires so many different things in order to actually work. I need to figure out the scope of the project before I even start the project, so I don't get ahead of myself trying to build out features when I can't even implement them in the first place. So breaking up the flow a little bit here, I actually build my circuitries very it's not very organic. It's very structured, it's very planned, and all that I build that's within the circuit itself is something that I had an idea of or what would need to be required from the get-go. The parts where it starts to get a little bit more, I guess, organic per se is when I run into an issue that's not expected, be it a Rec Room bug or a gap in my knowledge, which causes a flaw within the circuits that I have to work around and But when I'm building circuits, what I tend to do is bucket them out into different logical steps. So, for instance, I need to have some sort of like logic or area where there's like a bank account per se for the tycoon. Players can have their own little stats, their own little monies that they can have, and that's going to be separate from the logic of how to reference how much upgrades cost for them, because that can be like a centralized system that's separate from an individual system. So I bucket everything into these little logics, these big concepts that I need to solve. Take the small pieces of logic that I understand about circuits, being addition, subtraction, division, whatever that might be, and or if, and then I plan out like, okay, if I add this, then subtract this and divide this, I can create a formula that works out pretty well to what I need to achieve my concept. Then I just implement that into the game. So for me personally,
Will that go into like a
it
circuit
tends
board
to have
that
a
you'll use for like?
lot of structure. Circuit boards are usually not, they're part of an ink saving structure. I usually don't use them
Okay.
unless I can bundle them together to save ink and strictly just to do that.
Got it.
For me personally, because I tend to work with, with how many connecting parts there are on this like large concepts, they just won't fit within a single circuit board in most cases. So
I see.
that's how I approach circuits.
Nice. All right, Joker, finish us off here. How are you going
Yes.
through all this?
So when I'm programming with circuits, it's organic, but I have rules, which
Ooh.
sounds like, there is some planning, but I want to advocate for, so Rec Room's got a few, some values that are important here, right? For me, a value that's always been way more important than Ready, Fire, Aim has been, when in doubt, build it. I have said this to myself many times while building and programming parts of rooms. This is in the scope of like one feature of a room. Like I know, I've got a room designed out, and I know I want players to be able to do something, or I want the room to react in one way, and I have an idea. I have a basic idea of how that's going to work, but I haven't planned it out. And so what I end up doing is I just say, start building. Like this is almost more of a motivational thing than a planning thing, because it's like it takes way more energy to sit down and try and plan out something that might work than it does to just say, well, okay, I know the starting point is like is this chip. It's definitely going to involve this chip. It's like this function is in there somewhere. So I pull that out, and then I'm like, okay, what would this need to be wired to? And then there's a flow that comes with practice and comes with the vocabulary I talked about, where you just start pulling out and like, okay, this needs to connect to this. Pretty often it goes wrong. You'll end up, an hour deep into something and you realize, oh wow, there's a way better way to do this, or this doesn't work at all. That's okay, because in my mind, I would waste way more energy trying to plan things out without having it in front of me. Because the wonderful thing about circuits is it allows you to think using the part of your brain that processes space. This is the awesome thing about node-based programming languages. Your brain is just way better, at least it's more comfortable for me to have it in front of me, to put my hands on it, to connect the colorful things to the other colorful things. So that's how I do a lot of it. So it's pretty organic. On a scale of a room, there's planning that's involved, but not a ton. What I'll do is I'll just take a lot of notes, like, here's what I want this room to be, and it's going to need this, 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 and this. And like, when I think of a way to solve a problem, I'll just be like, oh yeah, like here, I'll use this gadget plus this chip, and that'll turn out to do roughly what I want. I don't have it all planned out, but I have a basic idea of like, yeah, it's going to involve that, and I'll figure out the details later. I do a lot of leaving the details till I get right in the middle of it and focusing on it, and focusing on that feature when I'm actually working on that feature. That's like probably the biggest tip I can give, is get an idea of what you want to do, but then leave it till later and focus on first things first and get to that when you get to it. But about the rules I talked about, I mentioned space. I try to use space as much as possible. When I'm organizing chips, I always use a grid. I try to, have straight lines as much as possible. So I try to make things readable so that I can watch, I can follow the path of a wire through the logic of what I've programmed as much as possible. Not always totally possible. Sometimes you've got things that just don't work
Especially
that way. They don't flow
CV1.
that way. It's true with CV2. Well, I think it's also
CV2 is
true with
at least
CV2.
got a bend in the wire.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. That's a good point. Yeah, that is one big improvement with CV2 is the wires are more readable by like
And hopefully
purely
we'll have elbows at some point. That'll be nice.
by an eyeball standpoint. Yeah. But yeah, I try to use space as much as possible. I think what I advocate for is have some rules for how you organize and make it readable for you. Dragon has labeling things with circuit boards. That's a great idea. I don't use that. I barely use circuit boards at all. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing to do. It's just I never fell into that habit. The habit that I formed is I resize chips. This is going away, so I'm going to have to form a new habit. But in CV1, you can scale chips up. And what I tend to do is in a little diagram for like one feature, I'll if one chip is particularly important or central to the logic there, I'll make it bigger, just so it sort of sticks out at me like, oh, that's what that's doing.
I've never resized a
Right.
chip. I don't think ever.
I've never resized
Oh,
it either, but what
wow.
I
Tried to
do
scale
is
one
pretty
up, yeah.
similar. I space it out so like the big logics are separate. So instead of sizing it up, it's like there's this big empty space between the chips that have like important logic.
Yes. And
that's pretty
they'll
common.
touch on this a little too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is the great thing about circuits as a node-based programming language, is not only spacing things out so you know, okay, this does a thing that you can describe in a sentence, and then over here, this does a different thing that you can describe in a sentence. Not only that, but you can also locate those things right next to the thing that they affect. Like the boxing glove, just put all the circuits right next to it. It's like, oh, what are all these chips for? They're probably for the boxing glove because they're right next to it. It's kind of the beauty of it.
I love it. I love it.
Okay.
I want to challenge Taco before CV1 has transitioned out. Maybe scale all the chips, build a big city of chips. Just go ham with it.
Chips
Okay.
walls made out of chips, floors made out of chips.
Yes.
man.
With areas
I
make that
wanna-
actually physical.
Yes. Oh yeah. Like Tron situation, some kind of Tron situation. I have a question about. I like what Joe was saying. How you design, you organize for yourself. But have you guys had a chance to collaborate with other circuit builders, and how would you guys, come up with a way to, want to hand off the chips, or someone can come in and work after you? Like have you done that, and how do you organize for that? How would you recommend others to organize for that?
And real quick, I do want to say we are running a little bit late on time, so we have about 5 minutes left for the stream. So
Thanks.
1
Okay,
minute answers,
got
guys.
you.
Let's go.
Oh no.
1 minute answers. Okay. Who would like to take this? Maybe one person can answer this. Who has collaborated a lot? Go ahead. Taco, a few good tacos.
I have worked with people in the past in circuitry, but it's always been you work on this section, I'll work on this section, and then we'll meet in the middle and we'll connect pieces together. And that's always worked. It's not been like you place this chip here and you place that chip here, and then we'll kind of connect them together. It's like you work on this giant thing over here, I'll work on this giant thing over here, and then we'll build some pieces out like a puzzle and then like connect them together. Yeah. So yeah, like this whole UI thing. There's so much I could talk about this whole UI thing, but I guess that'll have to be for another time. But yeah, it's
we'll
really,
do
it's
a
like,
part 2. You guys want a part
Yeah.
2? I know it. We'll do a part 2. No worries.
I'll put this out there.
How about this? Go ahead.
My attitude has always been, it's really, for me personally, definitely, it's really hard to talk about, to read somebody else's circuit like in real time, like to stand next to somebody and have them be like, here's what I'm doing, and then you look at it and pick it apart and figure out what you're doing. The way my brain works is slower than that. Like I need you to go away. I need to spend 15 minutes or something just with this by myself, going from piece to piece, before I can understand exactly how your circuit is working. That's always been a big challenge. So the idea of collaborating like in real time on the same thing is something I've personally always pretty much avoided.
Yeah.
I have I've
It's
definitely
pretty
had
crazy.
like people split up things between subrooms or between parts of subrooms. I did that.
Yeah.
I know with Polar Express as an example, I had the privilege of working with Fabrum on that one, and a couple others, circuits-wise anyway. Yeah.
Thank you, Joker. All right,
It's hard
guys.
to do,
I'm
so
so
don't feel
sorry.
intimidated.
I love it, Joker. Thank you so much. We're going to be wrapping this up. We're going to make sure you guys make it to your next panel. Okay, guys? So without further ado, can one of you guys give me in one sentence, a haiku if you'd like, how do circuits work? One sentence, how do circuits work? Enlighten us. Might put it on Figure Tacos. Velp, I see Velp.
Okay, well, circuits V1 is pretty much just about moving numbers around. Not necessarily about math, it's just logic, just the flow of numbers. It's not manipulating the numbers directly with math, it's just having them go through and change depending on inputs and outputs. It's not as complicated as a lot of people think it is.
Yeah, I agree with that.
My one
Awesome. Thank you
sentence I'll
guys.
give you
All
is,
right, guys. Oh,
it's
yeah,
simple,
please.
guys. It's very simple. Simple concepts. That's all I got. It's simple concepts.
Many small, simple concepts that are
Many when combined.
complicated together. Yeah.
Nice. Dragon, what's your
I cheated
with your
a tiny
journaling?
bit. I cheated a tiny bit. Instead of one sentence, I chose one picture.
Ooh, visual, yes. Hold on. You need to get your picture. Cueing me. Yes, I'm on it. Dragon, cue me. Which picture was it? This one? This one.
No, not
This
that one.
That
No.
one.
Not that one.
Could be that one though.
There's another image
It could be that
attached.
one, yeah.
There's an
I'm
image
afraid.
attached to the thing I posted. It's not all a rec.net image.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. All right, Dragon.
Oh.
This one.
There it is. Yeah, that one.
Excellent.
I
Yeah.
agree with this.
Yeah, pretty much.
No,
Very
this
good.
actually,
Oh,
yeah,
hey.
no. I saw this earlier, and I totally
Yes. Aw.
vibe with this. This is how I work.
Circuits work really
Oh.
well if you put 1987 into one of the inputs. That is true.
But
I
no,
do
this
agree with
this
that,
is a
so.
really important point though.
Nice.
Like step 4 is actually an important step. You need to be okay with there being a gray fuzzy area in what you're building. You need to be okay with
Yeah.
you need to expect the unexpected and know that you're going to solve some problems later on.
All
And with that,
right.
that's
Thank you
how
guys.
make a gold
Yeah.
trophy.
Yeah.
Okay, we got one sentence from the audience member. Clarity's like saying the one sentence is enter the matrix is the real answer. All right, thank you, Clarity. With that, we're gonna wrap up this POW Jams Circuit Master Roundtable. I want you guys at home to please make sure to point and cheers at everyone, point and follow people, subscribe, show the love. Thank you guys for coming. We're gonna do follow-up roundtables. Please send us your ideas. We're gonna keep coming back at you. Thank you all. Thank you all so much. All right. Have a good night.